What's good? It's Woog. We've got a bout at lightweight between the prospect Abdullah Mason, 18 wins and 0 losses, taking on the hard-hitting Jeremiah Nakathila, 26 wins and 4 losses. This fight's taking place on a top-ranked card, and it features a WBO lightweight title bout between Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos. I just dropped a video on that main event. Check that out after you peep this one. But this fight is a pretty interesting co-main event because this prospect, Abdullah Mason, who I see as having, look, he's probably my favorite young prospect in the game right now. He's from Bedford, Ohio, 21 years old. He's still 21 years old, and his offensive arsenal is just unmatched, at least at this early stage. I know people always look electrifying when they're coming up the ranks, but he's really looking like something special. And for somebody who's 5'9", he's got a 74-inch reach. That's Terrence Crawford's reach. And Terrence Crawford was lightweight, then 140, then 147, and now obviously fighting Canelo at 168. But 74-inch reach and a southpaw currently at lightweight. Yeah, keep your eyes on Abdullah Mason. I forgot which fight I had first seen him in. It was several fights ago, like 7, 8, 9 fights. It was super early in his career, but I just saw the hand speed jumping off the page. Like sometimes you see, look, even the main event champion, the WBO lightweight champ, Keyshawn Davis, when I saw his first few pro fights, I thought that he was good. I thought that he might be really good, but I didn't see special. Now, the story as it's being written might say otherwise. Like he is looking like he really might be special, but I'm just saying the physical attributes and the hand speed weren't jumping off the page for me. I mean, the guys whose hand speed jump off the page, I mean, I can name a few. A young Zab Judah, Shane Mosley, certainly Shane Mosley, Gary Russell Jr., Manny Pacquiao. Those would be the newer generations, the more modern, just hand speed virtuosos. I look at Abdullah Mason as maybe being of that ilk, where it just takes a brief moment to see, oh yeah, we might be dealing with something different here. Now, I'm talking about his offensive arsenal. Defensively, it's a work in progress. Like he's not a bad defender by any stretch. It's not like he's going, out there and getting hit with a bunch of clean shots. He's not. It's just that a couple of fights ago against Manuel James, he got dropped a couple of times. And that really surprised some people because, again, we're used to seeing these prospects come up and largely remain untouched for a long stretch. But yeah, he pretty much had his difficulty in the first couple of rounds against Manuel James, but he ended up knocking James out in the 4th round. So defensively, usually he's pretty good, but we don't know, one, if he's got a chin. We've seen the one time it looked like he really got hit cleanly, he got dropped. So we don't know if we have a chin issue. What I do know, or what I do strongly suspect, is that we have somebody, again, with a special offensive arsenal, somebody who had chin issues with a special offensive arsenal, Amir Khan, right? And he actually had a really good career. Yeah, people remember him getting knocked out those few times, but if you look at the guys that he beat, and if you look at what his reputation was when he was one of the hottest fighters on his promotion and on that network, Amir Khan was a handful to deal with in the ring. We'll see how Abdullah Mason's career plays out, but at this stage, it's a lot of fun just watching the guy fight over fight. And now he's got a significant step up against Jeremiah Nakathila, who shared the ring with Shakur Stevenson, went the distance, and Shakur Stevenson showed him a lot of respect. Shakur Stevenson tends to do that with certain opponents. I mean, obviously with Edwin De Los Santos, that's going to be Keyshawn Davis's title challenger, but Nakathila has a dangerous right hand. I mean, after he lost to Shakur Stevenson, after having most of his fights in his home country of Namibia, that's in Africa if you weren't aware, but he would fight a lot regionally and he'd be doing really well there. Then he obviously got the call up, the big step up to challenge for Shakur Stevenson's then WBO super featherweight. So this was at 130. And he didn't embarrass himself. He did pretty well. And by pretty well, I mean going the distance. He didn't win rounds, okay? Shakur Stevenson pretty much shut him out, or close to it, 11-1, 12-0. Like, Shakur Stevenson dominated, but he was pretty apprehensive in doing so. And then 2 fights later for Nakathila, he fights Miguel Berchelt, who was returning to the ring after getting upset, beaten, and knocked out viciously, one of the knockouts of that year at the hands of Oscar Valdez. Berchelt returns to the ring and gets destroyed in 6 rounds by Nakathila. And that should have been the end of Berchelt's career. I know he's fought like 3 times since. I think his last fight was in November of 2024. But that pretty much sealed the deal on Berchelt being an elite fighter, getting knocked out by, again, the hard-hitting Jeremiah Nakathila. And then after that win for Nakathila, he fights Raymond Murataya and gets blown out in 2 rounds, gets stopped early. And then in his very next fight, he gets stopped in the 2nd round. He gets knocked out, this time by Ernesto Mercado. Pretty good fighter, still undefeated. He's the guy who just blew out Pedraza in 4 rounds. I suspect you're going to be hearing more and more about Ernesto Mercado in the future. But yeah, he knocked out Nakathila in the 2nd round. And since then, since those back-to-back 2nd round knockout losses, Nakathila has fought his last 3 fights against much lesser opponents in his home country of Namibia. So this is his next call up to the United States. He's going to be fighting Abdullah Mason. Again, one of the most electrifying prospects, if not the most electrifying. Well, Moses Atama is obviously jumping off the page as well. But Abdullah Mason, about as fun as it gets in terms of what he's delivering offensively. So first of all, the odds in this fight are outrageous. And I have to say, the odds for Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin De Los Santos are pretty outrageous. We're talking like greater than 10-1 favorites. And even in the case of Keyshawn Davis against somebody who knocked out Jose Valenzuela, that's crazy. Like, even if you think Keyshawn Davis is gonna win, if you're a betting man, you might want to look at those odds. Just give him a look and see how big of an underdog De Los Santos is. It's nuts. And here, Abdullah Mason is a minus 2,500. He's a 25-1 favorite against someone who knocked out Miguel Berchelt. And I think it's, again, because Abdullah Mason's talent is jumping off the page, and Nakathila at this point is only beating the lesser guys and is getting knocked out early against the good fighters, Murataya and Mercado. And again, when he knocked out Miguel Berchelt, that was after Berchelt got knocked out by Oscar Valdez. So the public obviously doesn't think too highly of Nakathila, but look, he does still deliver on that right hand. You know, his last 3 fights, 2 out of the 3 were knockouts. One of those was a 1st round knockout. So look, how do you, what's the old adage? Like, how do you handle a southpaw? With straight right hands. That's what Nakathila could deliver. So Abdullah Mason is gonna have to be careful, especially in the early rounds. Now, Nakathila is 35 years old. That's another thing to consider when you talk about this fight, and especially when you start getting into the second half of the fight. I think Abdullah Mason might have a quiet 1st round. Now, if Abdullah Mason just goes in there and blows out Nakathila in a couple of rounds, then yo, hats off to him. He's further along in his development than I would have even thought. And again, I'm a huge fan of Abdullah Mason. I'm super bullish on his future if he has a chance. But I don't think he's gonna blow him out. I think that if he does blow him out, it's gonna be because he got dropped and hurt early and then returned fire in the way that he did against Manuel James. Like, Nakathila catches him slipping with a nice right hand, maybe puts him on his butt. Abdullah Mason gets up, deconstructs and breaks down, stops Jeremiah Nakathila. We might get one of those scenarios, but I think Abdullah Mason is gonna be coached up to be a little bit careful in the first couple of rounds against Nakathila. Now, how is he gonna be a round winner without hurting him with a straight left hand? Like, if you're gonna go for broke and unleash that straight left, you are leaving yourself vulnerable to getting hit with a straight right. So is Abdullah Mason gonna box from distance? And I mean, is he even gonna be able to establish a jab against the orthodox Nakathila? I suspect that he will. I think that he's gonna win the early rounds, but I do think that he stands there's a solid chance he gets his bell rung in the first 2 to 3 rounds. I'm almost thinking that it's more likely that he gets buzzed sometime in the first 3 rounds than him not getting hurt by at least one of those right hands from Nakathila. But I think that Abdullah Mason is going to be a little bit more patient than usual. I mean, look, he's not one of these just head over skis guys who's just going at you and is relentlessly attacking you the whole fight. He's not. He's a pretty patient fighter. It's just that he's able to open up opportunities very early in a lot of these fights. He's a good all-around offensive fighter. I don't know how else to put it. He sets up his power shots well. He does change his speed. He's not like throwing the 100-mile-per-hour fastball with every punch that he throws. No, he's setting up the jabs. He's throwing the jab low. He's throwing the left low. He's feinting, and he's setting up the bigger shots. He's doing that pretty well. I think he's going to have success doing that here against Nakathila. And I was going to pick Abdullah Mason, but via decision because of how careful he might have to be against Nakathila. But yo, 35 years old, being stopped twice in the last couple of years, Abdullah Mason being an offensive virtuoso, at least again at this stage. Yeah, I think that Abdullah Mason, again, I think he might get hurt early, but I think he's gonna stop Nakathila sometime between, I would say, rounds 5 and 7. I don't think it's gonna be super early. I think he's gonna stop him probably early in the back half of the fight, talking round 6 or 7, something like that. I'm going Abdullah Mason to pull off but to get the stoppage over Nakathila in this significant step up for Abdullah Mason. So yeah, I'm going Abdullah Mason with the stoppage here, second half of the fight, early in the second half of the fight. Let me know your thoughts on him as a prospect. Do you think Nakathila has a chance? I certainly think he's got a better than plus 1200, a 12-to-1 underdog. I think he's better than that, but I don't think he's gonna win against Abdullah Mason here. I think Abdullah Mason is not only gonna win, but win via stoppage. I want your thoughts on Abdullah Mason and how you expect this fight to play out. And let me know what you think of Abdullah Mason's future. You know, he's gonna be a lightweight for some time. He's inevitably gonna go to 140, 147. How do you see him stacking up against the rest of the cream of the crop at 135 to 147? Like, I don't think he's ever going to get a fight against Tank Davis. I think Tank Davis is actually, you know, in the back half of his career already, and Abdullah Mason is just on the come up. So I don't see him fighting, you know, Davis. I obviously don't see him fighting Lomachenko. You've got to talk, you know, maybe the Teofimo Lopez's, Devin Haney's, but even Devin Haney's already flirting with 147. But yeah, just given that whole crop between 135 and 147, not counting Bout's Ennis, because he's probably going to go up to 154 before Abdullah Mason even goes to 140. How do you see Abdullah Mason stacking up? And do you think that do you suspect that he might be chinny? Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.